Welcome back to Dragon Age Origins. We are playing the Dwarven Noble origin story, and we're going to talk with our brother Trian, and also our brother Balin, because they're together as always.
So you're a commander now, in name at least. Shouldn't you be attending our King Father?
Already did. As usual, you're being a piece. You two were not at the feast.
The world does not stop and start with your meager achievements, not even tonight. Now, do you have some purpose in bothering us?
Father is worried you're too much of an ass to be prince.
You push your luck. Balin, get to bed. We have a big day tomorrow. I will see what our father wishes from his heir.
All day I've put up with that. He can really grate on the nerves.
So Balin is deliberately being manipulative, and even if you don't suspect that by his tone, you can kind of suspect that just based on the fact that he's literally been spending his entire day with Trian, and Trian doesn't seem to have even an ounce of animosity towards Balin at all. And yet, as soon as you even enter eyesight, Trian becomes very touchy and aggressive towards you. I agree.
And what I'm going to tell you next won't make you any more fond of him.
Is this something I even want to hear?
Probably not, but you need to all the same. Trian has begun to move against you. I never thought his much-proclaimed honor would allow him to actually act on his jealousy. Big brother, Trian is going to try to kill you.
That seems a little far-fetched.
I wouldn't have believed it myself if I hadn't overheard him giving orders to his men. Trian's decided you're a threat to his taking the throne. Maybe he's right.
How am I a threat to Trian?
He fears what you are becoming, in the eyes of the people and the Assembly. Trian's the named prince, but only the Assembly can proclaim a king. It would be unusual for the Assembly to ignore the king's choice, but it does happen. The first Idukan king wasn't even part of the house's leading family. That was an extraordinary case, but at least a half-dozen times the Assembly named a lesser family member, or even someone from another house, as king. Usually, it's the popular younger brother of an undesirable prince.
So Trian thinks the Assembly would prefer me.
Look at it from his perspective. You're more personable than he's ever been. You entered the provings held in your own honor just for glory and to please the crowds. If you win glory against the Darkspawn tomorrow, it will only strengthen the case for you as the next heir. Trian fears father will replace him on the spot. If not, the Assembly will surely turn against him when father dies. You know his pride will never allow him to step aside.
What's your angle in this?
It seems Trian has shown that brothers can't always be trusted. I am next in line. If Trian succeeds in his plot against you, how long do you think I'll live?
Gorham, what do you say?
Permission to speak freely?
Of course, my friend.
Trian would make a terrible king, but no one wants to say it. He has just enough backing in the Assembly to make it ugly when your father dies, but not enough to become king. Killing him now makes your house stronger and saves a great deal of bloodshed later.
Now, Trian does end up dying, regardless of whether you decide to agree with the plot against Trian. because Balin had in his mind to kill Trian all along, and he was going to do it regardless of whether you decided to make it easy for him or not. And you'll find out a lot about that, because that is directly linked to how you become a Grey Warden. Essentially, Balin's plan is to remove all obstacles in his way so that he can become the king. And he's been manipulating both Trian and yourself for some time, especially Trian, in order to make this happen. And with the venture into the deep roads tomorrow, like the big expedition that they've been talking about, Balin is going to use that as an opportunity to remove both of you as threats. He removes Trian as a threat by just outright killing him, and he removes you as a threat by making it look like you're the one that killed Trian. We'll wait and see what Trian does.
Very well. I'll keep my eyes open. I don't want to lose the brother I actually like.
I'm glad for your concern, Balin. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm taking your place as father's second, so I'll be at hand tomorrow. For now, try to get some sleep.
Let's go. You don't want to keep those lovely ladies waiting.
So it doesn't actually show you doing anything with the ladies, but that was just a comment to remind you that you did in fact talk with Marty and her friend, and they are waiting in your chambers, presumably. So during that encounter, you end up producing a son with Marty, and you find out about that when you come back to Orzammar later in the game.
Trian and his men will clear the way for the Grey Wardens to descend into the easternmost caverns. Those caverns are still infested by the worst of the Darkspawn. We cannot risk our own troops in there.
Understood, Lord Haramond. We should be able to sense the Darkspawn and avoid them once the way is open.
May the Paragons favor you, and the stone catch you if you fall. Come men! Glory awaits!
Balin, you and your men will second the king, clearing the main road.
Don't you think it looks a little cowardly to allow these humans to take our place where the fighting is thickest?
Are you questioning the battle plan?
Of course not. I'm sure your caution is for the glory of us all.
Enough, Balin. Take your men and make ready. Haramond and I need to have words with your sibling.
Good luck, my brother.
Your father has a special mission for you.
In the eastern deep roads, there is a secret door carved into the stone.
The door leads to a Taig, abandoned long ago by your ancestors. The Darkspawn have made it impossible to reach.
My father believed that the shield of the Paragon Aidukan remains in that Taig, under the stones of the central room. Reclaim the shield, and glory will be yours.
What else is in the Taig?
My father's writings speak only of the shield. There may be countless other treasures, but only the shield matters.
We've sent 2 scouts ahead to make sure the tunnels are cleared. But be careful. One of the scouts will meet you at the first crossroads you come to. The second will be further in. When you get to the door, use your signet ring to open it. Questions?
No, I'll be back shortly.
Very good. The crossroads where you meet the first scout will be the rendezvous point. There you can present the shield to the lords and demonstrate the strength of Aidukan.
May the ancestors watch over you, my child.
Alright. So this is just mostly a hack and slash episode, seems like, since we're going into the deep roads. I'm going to skip a lot of the fighting because a lot of it is just irrelevant.
This should be easy enough.
You had it coming!
I'm not going to bother looting anything because it really doesn't matter. Now, I did pick to have a two-hander. I was hoping that I'd find a two-hander by now, and we're not going to find anything unless we actually loot everything. But it's just a little bit of a waste of time, and I'd like to get through this quickly, I suppose, just so that we can more so discuss the ramifications of this origin story on the rest of the game. Ideally, what you will want to do is loot everything as you're going through here, because not only can you find codices and that sort of thing, but you also find loot. Now, as you can see, the deep roads aren't all fancy and dwarven structures, but some of them are.
Did you run afoul of any darkspawn?
Nothing we couldn't handle.
We didn't expect any activity in these tunnels at all. Once I finished scouting the tunnels, I hid here to avoid the darkspawn. Most tunnels are dead ends. The one we want is swarming with those fiends. It's going to be a fight.
So this guy that we're talking to is actually the guy that we were fighting in the Proving. As you can see, he lived his encounter in the Proving, and that's something that doesn't always happen. It is possible for people to die in the Proving. It doesn't always happen, but it can. We are warriors. Nothing stands in our way.
As you say, onward then.
So this is the crossroad that everybody's been talking about. When we come through here again, there will be a trigger for like a dialogue scene, essentially, and that'll involve our brothers and the plot that I was talking about that Balin has planned from last episode. This fellow that's following us, Gorham actually ends up getting banished with you, but he does not die. He is just, rather than being expunged into the deep roads, he's allowed to go live on the surface, and he does just that. When you see him next, he's living in the city of Denerim with humans, and he's quite enjoying his new life. And not only that, but you find out that he has a wife and kids that he met on the surface. So being expelled from the city actually isn't a bad thing for him necessarily. Although it definitely seems like a bad thing when it first happens.
As you wish. Wrong man! I'm gonna make this quick.
Now in here is like a dead end, but there's a chest in there. If you're a rogue, you can go to open the chest. We should be able to meet the other dwarf that we are rendezvousing with. There he is. So this other dwarf is
here.
A rogue.
The Darkspawn had got you for sure.
So that chest that we actually saw back there, if you take him and run backwards to that chest, you might be able to open it, since he's a rogue. Just double check that he actually has the lock-picking ability. I'm not that easy to kill.
And I'll make sure I'm behind you if we're swarmed. We want the tunnel ahead, but there are Darkspawn tracks all over it. Be careful.
Have you seen the Tig door yet?
I haven't ventured more than 100 yards ahead for fear of alerting other Darkspawn. I'll follow your lead, Commander.
Right, okay. So we can go that way later in the game, because you can actually come to this exact area later when you come back to Orzammar in general. And later in the game, when you have the option, you go that way, and in that direction there's like a dead end that has a horde of something called a deep stalker, and they basically ambush you. But this is like an optional area. You don't actually have to come here later in the game. It's just an optional kind of thing.
Let's get started. Take that!
This early in the game, there's not a whole lot of AoE attacks, unless you happen to have help of dual-wielding rogues. Or I suppose a decently leveled mage, like I think at level 4, by the time you get to level 4 you should be able to get a fireball for sure. If you choose to go that route anyway. So mages and rogues mostly are the only people who really have the chance for having much of an AoE.
Looks like someone beat us to the door.
This Darkspawn body is still fresh. Whoever opened the door is most likely still in there.
They had to have an Idukan signet ring to get in.
It could have been stolen, recently or generations back.
Or it could be an ambitious cousin out for his own glory.
Well, whoever it is, the shield is mine.
Understood. Let's move, men.
The reason this area is optional later in the game is because it's a quest line
join us.
for supporting Balin.
Eaten by Darkspawn. Turns out the shield isn't quite as easy to retrieve as I was led to believe. I wager you know where it is, though. So maybe you tell me where it is, and I won't mutilate your body so bad your father doesn't recognize you.
Well, I don't appreciate the threats. Gorm, we need to kill these men.
I'll try to hide my disappointment.
Just kill them, boys. We'll find this shield on our own. Enemies approach!
That was weird. Yeah. Just went in and out of pause a few too many times there. Let's kill that guy, maybe.
Would you like me to inform your next of kin?
Okay, I see what's happening.
On it.
Getting a weird audio feedback loop.
For the king! I've got your back!
Apparently. So these ballistas, I mentioned it on the main playthrough, but you can actually use the ballistas to attack enemies. The only problem with them is, for the most part, you can't aim the ballista. It's just wherever it's pointed, that's where it's going to shoot. But it does provide you with an introduction to a mechanic that is going to be used a lot later in the game. And that will become very important once you get to the Archdemon encounter at the very end of the game.
This is the room. How do we get the shield?
I'll figure it out.
You two, see if you can spot anything.
Alright, so what you need to do for this part is select all of them, make sure that they don't move on their own, so hold position, and then select one person at a time and put them on top of these squares that are a
some
little
of these tiles are
highlighted.
different from the others.
Then you put one dwarf on each tile, and then the dwarf that you have left, whether it's your hero dwarf or one of the others, goes to the casket in the middle and interacts with it. And press your signet ring against the indentation, continue. Press sarcophagus slides aside, revealing a hollow area, and the shield is inside. Take it.
That's it. We've got it.
Doesn't look like much.
The skill of our crafters has come far since then. But still, a shield of Iduken.
So this shield doesn't look like much at the moment, but Gorim ends up being able to keep the shield, and later in the game, when you encounter Gorim in Denerim City, whether you go that at the start of the game or later in the game, he ends up giving you the shield because he remembers you from your experiences together in here. Of course he does, because you're basically like best friends. So he remembers you, and he has the shield, and he tells you about what happened in Orzammar after you were essentially sent to your death. And he tells you about his family, he tells you about all that, and then he gives you the shield of Iduken. And the shield at that point in the game is a much higher level. The shield is one of the better shields that you can find in the game, and it's quite useful. So something to keep in mind. The strength of Iduken is in this shield.
I can feel it. It's inspirational.
If you say so. It's just a shield.
We should get moving.
We need to get to the other rendezvous point. Back in the direction we came from, at the crossroads.
To the crossroads.
Now we can snoop around in here and look for anything else that we can potentially find. I don't think there's anything. There might be like a codex or something, but
Did you hear that?
don't care enough. And now we're being ambushed by Darkspawn
There'll be
and
more of those
Deepstalker.
mercenaries.
Or no,
Darkspawn reinforcements. We should be careful.
it's a wolf bladed wolf. So the bladed wolves are supposed to be normal wolves that have been possessed by a demon or controlled by a demon. And they're associated heavily with the blade. Our character is actually getting low on health, so gonna add that there and use a potion. Oh, that's why I accidentally had them all on not moving still. Okay. Yeah, it definitely helps if you actually remember to turn that off again after doing that that puzzle inside. Whoops. I was wondering why that was taking so long. Yeah, not doing a whole lot of damage as the shield warrior. Now, we use this to break down the
This
wall.
should be easy enough.
Oh, there's no ammo in the ballista.
On it.
Interesting. Maybe we have to loot something in here and find the ammo.
Right.
No, I don't remember. Oh my goodness.
Let's get started.
Oh, well, that's kind of lame. Yeah, normally that doesn't happen. You just go up there, click on the ballista. I wonder if it's because we used this ballista earlier.
As you wish.
Oh, there we go, that's why. Figures. Okay, so the ballista bolt, it was in a barrel over by the other ballista, and we have to go get it.
On it. This should be easy enough.
There we go. That looks sketchy. Did you see that? The rock was moving. don't like these dockers, they're annoying. Do we have a two-hander yet? Of course not.
You will make this quick, shall we?
If Trian were really scheming against us, this would be the perfect place for an ambush. We've got the shield, and we're all alone out here.
Keep your wits about you then.
Of course.
What's that you're muttering about?
Yeah, I was forming them. So, our brother Trian may try to ambush us.
Fantastic. As if the Darkspawn weren't enough to worry about.
Just keep your eyes open.
No idea what that was about, but that sound, they all grunted like they were dying. But there's the meeting point, and we're going to see some bodies laying around. Yeah, right there. Can you see them? And they're dwarves. And one of them's Trian.
By the stone, it's Trian!
It must have been a Darkspawn attack.
This doesn't look like Darkspawn. No bites, no scratches, no mutilation.
We need to warn my father.
Someone's coming.
So this is still my character, it's just his helmet is back on.
Hurry, Father, before it's too...
As you can see, Balin is leading the charge. And he's insinuating that he told the king that Trian was under attack. Now, they were actually in a completely different tunnel, so it would have taken some time for him to make his way all the way over here. So...
By all the ancestors, what has happened here?
It seems we weren't fast enough. Balin was right.
My son, tell me this isn't what it looks like.
Trian's dead, if that's what you mean.
Dead by your hand.
My lord is innocent.
Sir Gorham, your loyalty makes you a useless witness. It falls to others to tell the story. You, Scout, what happened here?
Trian and his men were here early. It seems they'd done battle with the Darkspawn. Lord Iduken came up to them all friendly-like, but when we got close, he ordered us to attack.
Traitor!
Stop him! Take his weapons! I think we've seen enough.
No. If the scout were lying, I might have done much the same. I will not drag my son back to Orzammar in chains without hearing from Frandlin Ivo.
Frandlin Ivo, you are a good and noble man. Did the scout speak the truth?
He did, my lord. It was terrible.
Notice
Trian
the
didn't
glare
stand a
that
chance.
Balin gave him.
You treacherous bastard!
And
Silence, Gorham!
the implications of that are that
Have
Balin
anything
has
else to
dirt
say,
on
my
Ivo.
son?
And Balin was using the dirt to essentially manipulate Ivo into saying that we were the ones that killed Trian. You could even tell by the stutter in his voice. Now, of course, in the heat of the moment, none of that is going to be super obvious to the people in this unless they're out looking for it. That actually happens quite often. Do you have anything else to say, my son? I'm innocent.
I want to believe that. I really do.
Bind him. He will be judged before the Assembly. To Orzammar.
Now, the Assembly is in Balin's pocket, so they find you guilty. And they don't even actually take you before the Assembly, so you don't have a chance to argue your case at all. And that's also Balin's doing. We'll find out real quickly here. Just have to wait for someone to come talk to us.
You've got
He should be
10
on his
minutes,
way.
sir.
There
Orders
he is.
and all. You
Go on.
understand?
Of course. Leave us alone, will you please?
Yes, sir.
I would have come sooner had they allowed it. How are you?
Why has the Assembly not sent for me?
The Assembly isn't going to call for you. Balin has taken Trian's place in the Assembly. He introduced a motion to condemn you immediately, and it easily passed. He had fully half the Assembly ready to vote on something completely against tradition and justice. He must have been making deals and alliances for months, if not years.
And so, yeah, essentially, there's like a coup going on, and Balin is at the head of it. And they want to change Orzammar in order to suit the merchant class in a big way. And a lot of it has to do with profits, and that's how they're making their gains within the political view. Now, part of it also includes making the surface cast more readily accessible to the dwarves of the underground. So there will be better relations between those two factions, at the very least. So now Balin will be king.
I'm afraid so. Some of the lords, especially Harrowmont, are suspicious of Balin's instant rise to power. They are rallying, but far too slowly. The Assembly has already sentenced both of us.
What's going to happen to you?
My knighthood will be stripped, my name torn from my family records. But I will be allowed to attempt some sort of life on the surface. Lord Harrowmont moved for a similar exile for you, but Balin's supporters overwhelmed him. You are to be sealed in the deep roads to fight Darkspawn until you are overwhelmed and killed.
And it's no wonder that Balin wants you killed in the deep roads, because you are essentially a big witness to his actions here, and you have a lot of motivation to stand against him. But if you die, which ends up working in the case that you do not play as the Dwarven Noble. If you don't play as the Dwarven Noble, Balin's actions here 100% succeed, and it makes him look like the good guy. Harrowmont does end up pulling together enough people and enough doubt and suspicion to stand against Balin. However, in all the future games, if you just go with default for your previous hero actions, then Balin will be the person who is ruling the city of Orzammar. So, because that's the default. Now, he's supposed to win. Now, the game highly encourages you when you come here, regardless of whether you're a dwarf or not, to pick the side of Harrowmont, or at least it seems to. It seems to in the sense that Balin seems like a devious and manipulative person. However, if you look more at the political stances of each, Balin's political stances do happen to be more progressive than Harrowmont's. So Harrowmont is 100% on the side of keeping tradition, so he's very conservative based political ideology, and Balin is a much more progressive based political ideology. And that can influence your decision there as well. However, when you're playing through the game, the things that you notice first are like how the people surrounding or supporting each character act, and the people that Balin tends to be surrounded with are the devious, manipulative type people. And so it paints a bad light on Balin if that is what you're looking into. So in that sense, yeah, it pushes you to pick Haramont as the next king. Cowards weren't strong enough to kill me themselves.
That may have been Balin's first mistake. Lord Harrowmont gave me access to see you so I could tell you this. Duncan and the Grey Wardens are still in the Deep Roads, in tunnels connected to those you are to be left in. If you survive long enough to find the Grey Wardens, you may be able to escape with Duncan.
So that's another major difference, because if you are not the Dwarven Noble, Duncan is not here at this time, and there is no chance of you finding the Grey Wardens and leaving with them to the surface. You basically have to try and find your own way. And to do that alone without any knowledge of like where entrances to the surface are, yeah, it's basically a suicide mission, because you could be going deeper into the Deep Roads without even knowing. Especially being that you've never seen the surface before as a underground dwarf. The Grey Wardens would take an exile, a murderer.
The Grey Wardens don't care about a person's past. They recruit for daring, intelligence, and martial power. If you can find them, I'm sure you can join them and escape the Deep Roads.
Alright, how do I find the Grey Wardens?
They're down there somewhere. It's just a matter of surviving long enough to track them. I begged to go with you and fight at your side, but Balin's pet nobles wouldn't hear of it.
Yeah, because it would give us a better chance of surviving. Even without the Grey Wardens there, two dwarves together would have a much better chance of survival. Presumably, at least. Kind of depends on the attitude of the one dwarf, I suppose. I'll be alright.
I know you will, but still. Our time is up. May the Paragons guide your sword and the stone hold you up.
The same to you, my friend.
I will always be your man, my Lord Iduken.
They are ready for you now. Here is the prisoner, Lord Harrowmont.
Having been found guilty of fratricide by the Assembly of Orzammar, you are hereby sentenced to exile and death. Your name is from this point forward stripped from the records. You are no longer a person, nor a memory. You are to be cast into the Deep Roads with only sword and shield. Dare to redeem your life by fighting the enemies of Orzammar until your death. Do you have anything to say before the sentence is carried out?
Balin will destroy you just as he did me.
I understand your anger. You should have been allowed to defend yourself. Had I the power to stop this, I would have. Look me in the eye and tell me you didn't do this. For your father's sake.
I didn't kill Trian.
I believe you. That means Balin planned this from the start. Believe me, I will spend the rest of my days making sure Balin does not profit by his deeds. Your father asked me to give these to you. This sword and shield are of fine dwarven make. Strike a blow at our enemies.
How is my father?
He is old and this tragedy has hit him hard. He will rest better now, though, knowing the truth.
So we actually find out that is not true, because he ends up dying quickly after, and it's highly suspected by Harrowmont and people who follow Harrowmont that Balin poisoned the king to make him die so that he could become king instead. Harrowmont, on the other hand, Balin on the other hand rather, suggests that the reason the king died is the heartache was too much for an old man to handle, him losing 2 sons in such a short amount of time. So, tell my father I went to a warrior's death.
I will. Open the doors and let the condemned walk through. May the stone accept you when you fall.
Alright, we're back in the deep roads. Now all that's left is to go and find Duncan. It's just a pretty straightforward march through. I don't think we have... Yeah, we don't have anything that we can use. Just that sword. It might have been a better idea to be dual wielder warrior instead of the two-hander, since we haven't even found a single two-hander. Mind you, I haven't been looting everything, so it's entirely possible that we ran right past one. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference since we're playing on easy though, so...
As you wish.
Oh, there you go. Two-hander right there. There, and I can actually use some of my two-hander abilities. I don't think it'll make things die any faster. Just gives you an idea of what the two-hander abilities look like. So, yeah, didn't die any faster. It attacked faster in general. A little bit at least.
This should be easy enough.
What we can do is, outside of combat, add more strength, and then give ourselves another two-hander ability. This... yeah, let's not use that one. If we do one of those, then it gives us more ability to do damage during combat, so we're going to go with Pummel Strike, because that one potentially stuns the enemy, just like the Shield Bash would. So those two ways are dead ends. Just keep running, keep running, keep running. Thankfully, not all the deep roads look like just boring stone. If it did all just look like boring stone like this, then the deep roads would be a really, really lame place to be. In Dragon Age 2, you get to see a lot more of the taigs. Or I guess not a lot more, but you get to see different areas, and it gives like a new perspective on the deep roads. That is quite fascinating. Even in this game, when you come back to Orzammar later in the game, you end up exploring so deep into the deep roads that a lot of the areas that you see do offer a good amount of diversity in terms of like what the surrounding areas look like, what's all in there. So that's nice at least. Oh my goodness. Did not mean to click that. So, yeah, the Pummel Strike, as you can see from every time I've been using it, all it does is knock the opponent down. It doesn't do any damage at all, so... it's more of a defensive ability than it is a offensive ability. This is somewhat contentious, but in Dragon Age Inquisition, a lot of people seem to really hate the warrior two-hander perspective. I happen to love it, and that's probably the class that I'll play when we get to Inquisition. I'll talk a lot more about it then and why I like it. But
by the Maker, it's a dwarf.
Yeah.
Lord Idukan, what are you doing here alone? Where are your troops?
I am Lord Idukan no longer.
Ah, you have been made to walk the deep roads, then.
You mean you were exiled? What happened?
I do not think matters of Dwarven honor are any business of ours. You need not answer, friend.
I was betrayed by my
Lord
brother.
Trian?
Nope, Balin. Trian is dead.
I see. The brutal intrigue of the Dwarven court continues then. Your father intimated as much. There is no reason for you to walk these deep roads and die for something you did not do. You have already proven yourself both resourceful and skilled, and I would expect nothing less from an Idukan. When last we spoke, you told me you wished to join our order. I imagine this isn't quite what you meant, but you may still find great honor here. As leader of the Grey Wardens in Ferelden, I would like to formally invite you to join our order.
Now, you can choose to decline, but... Oh, I guess you can't. Not in this one. Yeah. Normally it gives you the option
we leave
to
immediately
decline
for Ostagar
all
to
the other
join with the
ones.
human forces facing the Darkspawn hordes led by King Kalen. Stay close. There
In
are
this
still
particular
Darkspawn around
case,
every
it
corner.
makes a lot more sense that there wouldn't be any option to decline, considering that that'd basically be a death sentence, and the Grey Wardens are going to help you remove your own death sentence. So, yeah, it makes a lot more sense than the other scenarios. But in every other scenario, you do have the option to say
We will be traveling south
that you
through
don't
the
want to be a
hinterlands to
Grey
the ruin
Warden.
of Ostagar, on the edges of the Korkari Wilds. The Tevinter
We're
Imperium
going to end it
built
here,
Ostagar long
so
ago
you don't need to pay
prevent the
attention to what
Wilders
he's
from
saying on
invading
the
the northern
screen,
lowlands.
because you
It's
already
fair
heard
we
that
make our
from a lot of
stand
the
here,
other
even if we
origin
face a
stories,
different foe
particularly
within that
from
forest.
our Elia
The King's
character
forces have
when we were
clashed with
playing
the
through on
Darkspawn
that
several times.
mage.
But here is
So,
where the bulk of the horde will show itself.
if you
There
liked
are
the
only
video,
a few Grey
give
Wardens
this
within
video
Ferelden at
a
the moment,
subscribe and a
but
like,
all of us are here.
and I'll see you next time.
This
Bye.
blight